Hey, I told Eddie if someone pulls out, I'll fight this weekend. Regardless of the cut. I'll fight this weekend, but no one's
Do you
pulling
respect
out.
Devin as a champion in your division? Do you respect him as a champion in your division?
Yes, of course I respect him. I always have respected him, and he knows how much I've respected him, and there is a mutual respect here. But if things go right, and the dotted line obviously gets signed by both sides,
Is this the
things
true
will probably
undisputed?
change.
Is this
Focus.
George,
No joke.
how
Focus
you
on
feel
Joe.
about fighting?
Hey, we don't want to pull that T.O. card.
Focus on Joe. Focus on Joe.
December 4th.
The truth will always come out. Breaking news of Eddie Hearn airing out George Kambosos for lying and trolling on Twitter. Eddie Hearn reconfirmed everything I have been reporting, where he made it clear that they did send George Kambosos an offer, and they had never received an offer from George Kambosos. So he don't know what George Kambosos is talking about when he tweeted he never received an offer from Devin Haney. The Zone don't have money for the Devin Haney undisputed fight, and that Devin Haney is not willing to travel. That did not age well for Kambosos, as Eddie Hearn exposed everything Kambosos said to be a complete lie. So without wasting any time, check it out for yourself how Eddie Hearn aired out George Kambosos' lies one by one.
Just finally on George Kambosos, I can see his frustration through social media.
I love George Kambosos. I don't want to pick holes in what he's saying, but someone's not telling George Kambosos the truth, because the Zone are very, very happy for Kambosos against Haney. We've already spoke to the Zone. There's a deal in place to try and make this happen. We have made a deal suggestion in writing to Lou DiBella and George Kambosos' team. We've not received anything in writing. Devin Haney is ready to go. And I hope George sees this email, because I love George and I love Jim and I love the team. Devin Haney is ready to get on a plane and make the undisputed fight. There's no money issues, there's no vaccine issues, there's nothing. He will take the fight. Make the undisputed fight. So let's make the fight. It's just weird. It's like, I keep seeing tweets from George Kambosos, who I love, by the way. No one works closer to the Zone than us. They'd be very happy with a Devin Haney fight. Trust me, the Zone have already made the offer for the Haney fight and a structure to make that fight work. And Devin's ready to get on a plane.
Man, those were ferocious lies by George Kambosos. I guess he will say and do anything to get out of the Devin Haney undisputed fight. But it gets better. Check George Kambosos' reaction and response to Eddie Hearn's statements. Kambosos said, quote, Chinese whispers. He said, she said, she said, he said. What a mad game this boxing game is. Laughing emoji. It's getting closer, everyone. Kambosos versus Lomachenko/Haney. Heart eyes and lion emoji. And still, end of the quote. All of a sudden, it sounds like George Kambosos is talking in another language. The only part that was understood is that he was still ducking. That's about it. So after weeks of trolling, weeks of lying to the world and his own fans, all of a sudden, this is all he has to say. Notice how Kambosos never denied anything Eddie Hearn said, even though Eddie Hearn exposed Kambosos for literally lying. He caught Kambosos red-handed. So what does Kambosos resort to do? Kambosos resorted to back trolling, saying a bunch of nothing. It almost sounds like George Kambosos was talking in another language, the Spartan Hollywood language. This is exactly why Devin Haney is the A-class boogeyman in the sport of boxing. Devin Haney turned George Kambosos from a Spartan warrior to a Spartan Hollywood actor. It's a darn shame that Devin Haney made George Kambosos a Spartan Twitter warrior. I mean, how is it possible that I factually know Eddie Hearn sent Kambosos an offer a long time ago, like a month ago, which I have made plenty of videos on. Meanwhile, George Kambosos pretending as if he don't know he received an offer from Eddie Hearn to fight Devin Haney in Australia for undisputed. Just like Kambosos was pretending that he didn't know Lomachenko sent him an offer. So we know what time it is. It's capping time for George Kambosos. And you know it's bad when George Kambosos is getting exposed by his own promoter. Lou DiBella came out and said, quote, The only offer I got from Eddie was last Friday, February 4th. End of the quote. Even when Kambosos' own promoter, Lou DiBella, is going out of his way to save face for his own fighter, Kambosos, what's so sad, he still ends up exposing him in the process. Nevertheless, let's go by what Lou DiBella had to say. If Eddie Hearn did send George Kambosos an official offer on February 4th, then why the heck George Kambosos 3 days later, on February 7th, completely denied receiving an offer where he stated, quote, "I have not seen one offer with a dollar amount, but you sent a contract? Question mark. The zone got no money for you." Laughing emoji, ouch, end of the quote. It's more than fair to say that George Kambosos' lies has caught up to him. All you have to do is peep the dates. Just take a look at the dates and you will notice George Kambosos getting exposed by his own promoter, Lou DiBella. See, that's what happens when you give someone enough rope to hang themselves. Kambosos hanged himself with his own hand, by his own team. As far as I know, this is case closed. This is not Devin Haney's word against Kambosos' word. Absolutely not. This is Kambosos' own word. This is Kambosos' own team exposing George Kambosos himself for lying. That's why this is not up for debate. There's only so many lies a person can tell before his own lies catches up to him, which for George Kambosos' case, his own lies overlapped. Therefore, when it comes to George Kambosos, we all know what his word is all about. He's not a man of his word. He's not a man of his handshake that he gave to both Devin Haney and Bill Haney to fight for Undisputed next. And if Kambosos doesn't fight Devin Haney next, he will go down in history as officially Duckbosos. It's amazing to me how Kambosos went from being a world champion to being a world troll. Check what Kambosos had to say about Devin Haney recently. Quote, "The kid is shit scared." Pause. Really? If you believe that, smack yourself one time for the culture. But let's get back to it. The kid is shit scared and his own broadcaster won't back him because he ain't bringing subscriptions. Cold hard truth. Poor kid did like 500 tickets his last fight. I was there. It was his hometown too. I did more in my pro debut at a club. End of the quote. Like Devin Haney said, they say everything but let's fight. Kambosos will tell Devin Haney to sell his jewelry so Kambosos can get overpaid in order to sell his belts to the highest bidder. That's what it all comes down to. Kambosos is showing how weak his confidence is when it comes to fighting Devin Haney. He already lost the battle before the war. Now, first of all, he said Devin Haney's scared, which is so laughable because you can go back to when Kambosos beat T.O. Since then, Devin Haney only mentioned one name, Kambosos. He said that's who I want next for Undisputed. He never contradicted himself, not even once, and agreed to all of Kambosos' terms before sending the offer over to Kambosos. On the other hand, Kambosos has contradicted himself a million times and even has got caught lying on more than one occasion. He also said he want to fight Ryan, Lomachenko, Gervonta Tank Davis, and maybe Devin Haney. He's being forced to a Devin Haney fight. So who is really scared? Even Stevie Wonder can see Kambosos shaking in his boots. Then you see Kambosos lying on Devin Haney ticket sales, even though Devin Haney sold more tickets than him. At 22, 23 years old, Devin Haney sold out the arena against Linares and sold more than 9,000 tickets against JoJo. Meanwhile, Kambosos and T.O. couldn't sell more than 5,000 tickets their last fight. To make matters worse, Kambosos is nearly 30 years old. And would you believe last year alone, Devin Haney made more money than Kambosos has made his entire career. But he wants to talk money to Devin Haney, the youngest promoter in boxing. Well, if you want to do that, Kambosos, if you want to make the top of money Devin Haney is making, then you got to have the cojones Devin Haney has to be willing to get in the ring with anybody especially if it's for Undisputed, not the other way around. Trolling is not going to make you any money. Ask Ryan Garcia, which that's exactly what Kambosos is doing today. He's looking to pull out of the Super Bowl in his own division for Undisputed against Devin Haney. Who pulls out of the Super Bowl game? That's Kambosos for you. Last but not least, Kambosos want to paint the narrative that DAZN don't want to have Devin Haney, so on and so forth. But I don't think Kambosos is informed that Devin Haney is one of the top 5 fighters in the United States that brings in the most viewership. He's on the top 5. It's Gervonta, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Deontay Wilder, and Devin Haney. Ryan Garcia is not on the list. Lomachenko is not on the list. And definitely Kambosos is not on the list. Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones, Mike Tyson. They all know Devin Haney for years. However, before yesterday, they didn't even know Kambosos existed on this earth. Matter of fact, they don't even know Kambosos' name till this day. That's why Eddie Hearn, who is DAZN's spokesperson, he checked Kambosos and said that DAZN would love to have Devin Haney versus Kambosos for Undisputed. That's a no-brainer. Who wouldn't want that fight? Only a duck without wings. Maybe Duck Boses don't want the fight, but DAZN definitely want the fight. So I suggest Kambosos doesn't talk money to Devin Haney, doesn't talk tickets to Devin Haney, doesn't talk numbers to Devin Haney, because Devin Haney brings more numbers, more money, and more everything to the table than Kambosos does. How you guys think Devin Haney gets paid more than $3 million a fight? Exactly. It ain't rocket science. What makes dollars make sense, and numbers make dollars nowadays, which Devin Haney brings a whole lot of that to DAZN. Furthermore, I could sit here and point out Kambosos' lies all day and night. The point here is Kambosos is destroying his own reputation with his own hands that he has built his entire career. All thanks to the man he fears, Devin Haney. I remember when Kambosos told Devin Haney if JoJo pulled out, I told Eddie, I'm willing to take the fight within less than a week notice. That's when Devin said, man, that's BS. And fast forward to this day, Kambosos is not willing to fight Devin Haney, even with a half of a year camp. We all know what time it is. It's Duck Boses time. With the facts being laid out, drop your thoughts in the comment section below, subscribe below, and click on the notification bell to be continued on the next episode of Akhi, TV. Peace, and I'm on to the next one.